What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single video. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving weekend to my fellow Canadians. I had a bomb-ass long weekend. Friday, my girlfriends and I went to a local concert, which was amazing. Saturday, my friends and I were all like calling each other, wishing each other like happy Thanksgivings. And I went to my family's house, and I'm just back now after a really, really good feast. So let's jump into a recap of Being V, okay? So just so you know, the episode was not like all that popping or happening or anything like that, but it was a comfortable, like calm watch, like a big stark difference from what Being Nathan was, right? Like this was a really soft and mellow, you know, documentary on what it's like to be Betsabe Torres, okay? So the episode kicked off with V telling her friend that Joe actually took out a 6-figure real estate loan ahead of their wedding, which really makes her nervous. And so the camera people pan out to what I believe is their backyard. And for some reason, unless I'm like really crazy, I'm 99.9% sure, for some reason, they had a kid slide propped up on top of a pool and a pool's tar mat. Like, I didn't understand that, or maybe I'm seeing things wrong, but that was kind of interesting to me. And so a producer actually is like, V, you keep talking about like this makeup business that you run or whatever, but I don't really know. I've never seen you do makeup, like in a cutesy kind of voice. So why don't we set you up, because we don't really have that much content on you, not much is happening, right? So why don't we set you up to do a producer's makeup? And so V's like, okay, sure, I've got the time. And so, you know, they call up a producer, V does her makeup. It's nothing super duper special. It was just like a neutral makeup look that, you know, I didn't think was a great advertisement for V, because it was something that anyone could do. I want to see her do bridal. I want to see her do drama, drag, all of that. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, the makeup looked good on the girl. It was a nice little neutral look. While V was doing that makeup for the producer, another producer was like, you know what? Good thing Joe's such a great babysitter, so you can do this. And I was kind of sitting there like, excuse you? Joe's a great babysitter? I'm pretty sure that the father of a child does not babysit a child. Like, that was a little bit problematic. I assume it was some sort of a joke, but it's kind of like those sorts of jokes that you shouldn't be telling, because it's really not that funny. Later on, V talks about her dad leaving her and how he never came to her baby shower, and that's the reason why she didn't even bother to text him back when he congratulated her on the birth of Vivi. He actually even stood her up when she told him that she was moving to Delaware and wanted to see him, you know, before she left. Like, he kept leading her on up until the last day, and so she wound up, you know, moving without getting to see him one final time, which is really heartbreaking to hear. And you know what, you guys, I felt pretty bad for them, because a lot of times throughout the special they would complain about like how they had to make like long trips back to Jersey, especially now that they're planning for weddings and stuff, even just to see their family and friends. Like, they had everything in Jersey because they grew up there, right? Like, all their family, their friends, their restaurants, like their places. Like, you know, when you love your city, like, you've got your places, it's your city. And how they had to pick up and move because of Kale. And especially when you realize that Kale still is not satisfied with where she's dragged everyone and wants to move. And also when you realize that Kale didn't even really bother that much to try to make her marriage work, and she dragged them all, you know, away from their home and everything that they knew to follow Javi, who she just wanted benefits from. You really do feel bad for them. And it actually gets a little bit worse throughout the special as well. And a little bit after that, Joe's mom comes to pick them up to check out wedding venues, and you can just tell that Janet absolutely adores V. They have a really cutesy relationship. And another funny thing about like them hanging out with Janet looking at wedding venues, one of them was a vineyard of sorts. Janet seemed to be the one that was like really like crossing her T's and dotting her I's about it, like asking all the serious questions, while Joe and V were just kind of like, you know, in, what do you call that? Is it Narnia or Nirvana, you know, or like in heaven with each other, just like flirting, all happy to be planning a wedding, while Janet was like, okay guys, this is what I need. What's the noise, the restrictions, what's the this, what's the that, like everything. And so it turns out that that venue wasn't ideal for them, because people would complain about noise, and it wouldn't fit the amount of people that they wanted to have at the wedding, and different things like that. After venue shopping, all of them go out to lunch or dinner with Joe's sister Crystal, where V actually actually asked Crystal to be one of her bridesmaids, and she of course says yes. Over dinner though, Joe constantly kept talking about how great V's butt was, and I was like, dude, they're eating. Like, it's nice that you adore her and her body and everything, but dude, they're eating. But it's so crazy to see how much Joe has changed from like the really hard guy who would, you know, really butt heads with Kale, give her a piece of her own medicine, drag her by the edges and everything, to this really soft guy who just absolutely loves and adores his fiance and his new daughter, and of course his son Isaac as well. Like, he's really changed like a lot, and he's just so sweet to V. You can just tell that he absolutely adores her 1000%. We then get a quick little scene at V's mother's home in Jersey, and the two of them talk about how the mom at first had to warm up to Joe and like now adores him as if he's her own son. And then, you know, she and her mom go into a room privately with little Vivi jumping on the bed. And so V talks about how often she would just make the long drives to Jersey by herself, you know, make extended stays, because she was like, I can't, like, you know, just up and leave everything and everybody that I know. She was miserable, she was crying all the time, and she just did not want to leave to go to Delaware, but she just loved Joe, and I'm assuming Isaac so much that she eventually like sacrificed everything she knew to follow them down there. And you could really feel for her and like get a sense of how much she, you know, also loves Joe as well. Now, towards the end of the episodes, V is actually nervous about Joe using so much money to invest in real estate because they're planning a wedding. And so, you know, regardless, she tries to support him. She goes to check out one of his buildings, and so I don't know why that was the one that they chose to show, but it was not like really that good of a look for Joe, because it was, you know, first of all, a building where like one of the front door's windows was actually blown out, and then you can just hear them talk about, oh, careful for spiders, whoa, water damage. And so it's obvious, you know, just from hearing that Joe wants to flip these houses. And so unfortunately, that one that they showed just happened to be, you know, way too damaged and way too high priced for him to even go for. But I feel like they should have showed him, you know, looking at a home that he was actually serious about going for. We should have been able to go inside, because the two of them, you know, could have actually made their own little like kind of audition for an HGTV type spin-off off of MTV. Like, they've already got the audience, you know, like it would have been nice to actually see Joe in action in the whole real estate business that V, you know, constantly mentioned in her special. Later that night, they headed back home, and in bed they were talking about taking out a loan to pay for their wedding venue, to which I was a little bit skeptical, because I don't think that it's a great idea to be going into debt to pay for a wedding. You should probably use your savings, you know, exclusively. But I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't have that much money. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure that Joe makes 6 figures from doing Teen Mom. Like, didn't Adam admit the men make like $300,000 a year? They live in a really modest home. They've got like modest car, maybe 2 cars. So I don't understand why they wouldn't have their money after doing Teen Mom for like a decade to afford a wedding venue. I didn't understand that. Maybe he's putting a lot into real estate, but I don't know. It didn't make sense to me, and it didn't seem like a really smart idea. And so Joe talks about how nervous he is about potentially taking out a loan for the wedding venue while also trying to apply for a loan for real estate. And V's like, listen, we're getting a venue in 6 months or less, or this wedding is not happening. And then Joe responds by saying that he wants to be able to make real estate investments without her having a say in them. And, you know, she rightfully was like, hell no. A couple days later, they go to check out flower girl dresses for their daughter Vivi, who looks adorable in them. And then at first I let like the whole them allowing the camera people to show Vivi in the bathtub slide or whatever, but after they return home, they just casually film the girl, the baby, on the potty, and I was like, you guys are allowed to say no to some things. You know what I mean? And especially in light of how creepy Amber's from Teen Mom OG, her boyfriend is, who works in production, like knowing how he abuses women allegedly, and like all the crazy things that go on. And it seems like these people don't get background checks. I feel like it's time for these people on these shows to, for their sake of their children, not film certain things. Like MTV does not need footage of your child on the potty, in the bathtub. Like you can say no to these things. You have to think about protecting your kids because they don't own the footage. Like what happens to the footage? Because obviously the full thing doesn't make it to air, but you've got how many people? Anytime they talk to a producer, you see like 6 of them. You've got 6 people you don't know that well. You probably don't have background checks on. Watching your kid in the tub, on the toilet, like say no sometimes. That really frustrated me. And later that night over dinner, Joe asked V if she's planning on inviting her dad to their wedding, and she says hell no because he hasn't attended anything that she's invited him to, including Vivi's birthday party, which is really sad. So sad, in fact, that V starts breaking down crying about how her dad doesn't want a relationship with his one and only grandchild. She's kind of like, you know what, I know you don't want a relationship with me, but why wouldn't you want one with your grandchild? Like I would want one with Vivi's grandchildren. And the episode kind of stops there. Like I told you, not that much happened that was really like worth noting or anything, but it was a nice, soft, mellow look into her life. We've all kind of been curious about the dynamic between Joe and V outside of the 5 minutes a week we got to see, and we got to see a lot more of it. To me, they're obviously like head over heels for each other, and it was beautiful to see that. And I thought it was a nice juxtaposition to what we saw with Nathan last week and what we're about to see with Simon this upcoming week as well. A nice little palate cleanser. I know a lot of you guys like to refer to these things as. I am, though, a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to hear her, raw and unfiltered opinions about Kale and dealing with her as, a stepmother to Isaac. I would have loved to see a little bit more of her dynamic with him. We didn't see that much of him. And her, I really am curious about how it works between the 3 of them, V, Kale, and Isaac. It would have been nice to see more of that. So that's my little recap on Being V. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. You can also like this video, subscribe for more. Feel free to share it with your friends as well. And follow me across social media where I absolutely love chatting with you. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.